This is the story of a child who spent 27 years in prison for the sake of justice. How a child born in a poor hut became a great leader of the world. On July 18, 1918, in the quiet village of Mvezo, along the banks of the Mabash River, amid silent wines and humble huts, a baby was born. He was named Rolihlala, a Xhosa word meaning troublemaker or one who challenges authority. Mandela belonged to the Thembu tribe, part of the African royal lineage. His father, Gadla Henry Mandela, was the tribe's chief, proud, stubborn, and principled. But when he spoke out openly against the white government, his chieftainship was stripped. Family was exiled, and from being influential, they suddenly became poor and powerless. Young Rolihlala wasn't like other village kids. He was quiet and observant. While others played, he would sit under a tree, reflecting on his father's words. When white officers humiliated black people, he would quietly wonder, aren't we humans too? His land, his language, his dignity, everything was being taken away. At age 9, Mandela's father fell severely ill. There was no access to medical care. White doctors refused to treat black patients. One evening, right before his eyes, his father passed away. That loss broke him. According to tribal custom, Mandela was sent to the palace of the Mbus, King Jongintaba, to be groomed as a future tribal leader. It wasn't a palace of gold, but one of values, traditions, and heritage. It was there that Mandela first learned the meaning of politics, justice, and leadership. When he started missionary school, the British teachers refused to call him by his African name Rolihlala. Instead, they gave him the name Nelson. Mandela accepted it silently, but deep inside, a question began to burn. Why do we have to abandon our names, our language, our identity? At school, he read that all men are created equal, but on the streets, he saw hate, humiliation, and violence toward blacks. He realized what was happening was wrong. He didn't have a voice yet, but the seeds of revolution were quietly being sown in his heart. Mandela was no longer an innocent child. He had become a young man who dreamed not just of a job, but of changing his nation's destiny. After basic education, he was sent to Hilltown Institute, a British-style school. From there, he got admission to Fort Hare University, the only university for black students in South Africa. There, under white laws, his mind began to awaken. He wasn't just studying law, politics, and philosophy. He was learning to think without fear. Fort Hare's student union was corrupt and racially biased. Mandela raised his voice against it. When the vice-chancellor tried to silence him, Mandela was expelled. This was the first price he paid for speaking the truth. He returned home. The king ordered him to marry a girl from his tribe, but Mandela wanted to live life on his own terms. So, with his friend Justice, he fled to Johannesburg, empty-handed, penniless, and full of danger. In Johannesburg, he saw racism institutionalized. Blacks could only live in certain areas, had to sit at the back of buses, couldn't enter government buildings. Mandela became a clerk at a white lawyer's office, where he began studying law. He continued his studies via correspondence from the University of South Africa. He worked by day, studied by night, and eventually earned his law degree. He was now ready to use law as a weapon. There, he met Walter Sisulu, who introduced him to the African National Congress ANC Youth League. This was his entry into politics, but not for power, for his people's rights. Mandela once said, "No one will give us our rights. We must take them ourselves." In 1948, the white government formally imposed apartheid laws. Under these, blacks became second-class citizens. Separate schools, hospitals, parks, even graveyards. It was a declaration of war, and Mandela decided silence is now a crime. With the ANC, he began peaceful protests, boycotts, and mass movements. He went door to door, urging people, "Do not be afraid. Be a voice for your children." Despite police violence, arrests, and threats, he didn't stop. In 1952, Mandela and ANC launched the Defiance Campaign. South Africa's first major public resistance. Blacks deliberately broke white-only laws. They entered through white doors, sat in white-only buses, and entered restricted zones without permission. Thousands were arrested. Mandela led from the front. In 1955, Mandela's slogan echoed, "South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black or white." The government called it treason. Soon, Mandela and 155 others were charged with treason. The trial lasted from 1956 to 1961, 5 long years. By day, Mandela was a lawyer in court. By night, a leader of the people. Eventually, all were acquitted, but the message was clear: you are free, but not completely. In 1960, police opened fire on a peaceful protest, killing 69 people, most shot in the back. This was Mandela's breaking point. He said, "If the government shoots at us, we have the right to defend ourselves." He co-founded ANC's armed wing, becoming its secret leader. They only targeted government infrastructure, not people. Mandela traveled abroad to Ethiopia, Egypt, England, and more. He raised funds, gained training, and returned to fight for justice. But the government had discovered his plans. In 1962, Mandela was arrested based on secret intelligence, charged with illegal travel, conspiracy, and armed activities. In court, Mandela declared, "I have fought not against whites, but against injustice. If seeking justice sends me to prison, then I accept prison." In 1964, during the Rivonia trial, he faced possible death penalty. There, he gave his most famous speech, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The court spared his life but sentenced him to life imprisonment. Mandela was sent to Robben Island, to iron bars, broken floors, and backbreaking labor. But this wasn't just an attempt to imprison Mandela. It was an attempt to silence a nation's voice. He was now a prisoner, but in every street, in every child's eyes, his hope lived on. Have you ever wondered, if a man is imprisoned for 27 years, with no freedom, no family, no light, does he break? No. If he is Nelson Mandela, he turns prison bars into resolve. He shows the world that freedom is not just of the body, it's of the soul. Mandela was placed among hardened criminals and political prisoners. No warm bed, no visits, no newspapers or radio, only rock-breaking labor. Under the harsh sun, he worked in lime quarries. His eyes were permanently damaged by the brightness. Yet, he taught others the philosophy of freedom. The quarry wasn't just a place of labor. It became a school of thought. They taught each other law, politics, literature, and poetry. They called it the University of Robben Island. Mandela learned of his mother's death in jail, but was not allowed to attend her funeral. He didn't see his wife Winnie for months. He watched his children grow up only through censored letters. Every day was painful, but he never broke, because he believed, if I give up, my people will lose. Outside, the world began to know his name. Posters read "Free Nelson Mandela." It became a global movement. Even prison officials began respecting him. The man they tried to silence was now a symbol of negotiation. Mandela treated even jailers with dignity, because he knew, one day, I'll sit across from them at the table of power. In the 1980s, talks of his release began. The government offered, "Renounce violence and we'll set you free." Mandela replied, "Only a truly free man can speak of freedom. I don't seek liberty for myself. I want it for my entire nation." On February 11, 1990, after 27 years, Mandela walked out of prison. The world watched as that iron gate opened. He held Winnie's hand, walked slowly, wrinkled face, white hair, but eyes still burning with hope. People expected revenge, but Mandela shocked the world. In his first speech, he said, "I stand at the door of freedom, not to take revenge, but to bring justice for all." He reorganized the ANC. Some youths were angry. They wanted war. Mandela told them, "Our aim is not to defeat whites, but to defeat racism." He chose peace. He began talks with his former jailer President F.W. de Klerk. Together, they laid the foundation for democracy. In 1994, history was made. For the first time, black South Africans could vote. Long lines formed, elders, women, children all waiting. Mandela to voted his first vote ever. On April 27, 1994, Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. When he stepped up to take oath, millions wept. He said, "I will leave behind a land for my children, where people are judged not by color, but by character." He emphasized forgiveness over revenge. He did the unthinkable, included white ministers in his government, made his former jailer the vice president, united black and white armies. This wasn't weakness, it was the victory of humanity. Apartheid was abolished, people were free, but Mandela knew, freedom means nothing if we forget, if we don't reconcile. Mandela could have remained in power, but in 1999, after just one term, he stepped down. He said, "Now it's time for the new generation to lead. My job was to awaken a nation. Now you must carry it forward." He spent his final years fighting for peace, against AIDS, for education, and the poor. Wherever he went, world leaders sat at his feet. In America, London, the UN, he humbly said, "I am no saint, just an ordinary man who did not sell his soul." In extraordinary circumstances, he received over 250 international awards, citizenship of 50 countries, and honorary degrees from dozens of universities. In 2013, his health declined. On December 5, 2013, the president of South Africa announced, "Our great leader, Nelson Mandela, has passed away tonight." The world stood still. New York dimmed its lights. Church bells rang in London. Tears fell in Moscow, Delhi, Cairo, and Beijing. 91 world leaders attended his funeral. Millions flooded the streets. With one tear, one voice, one salute, Nelson Mandela left behind 3 great gifts to the world. Forgive those who hate you. That is true humanity. A true leader doesn't walk ahead but walks with everyone. No condition is permanent if you don't lose hope. This is not just a story of one man. It is the story of millions who learn to be free even in prison, who conquer the world with truth, and who never truly die. How did you feel about this story of Nelson Mandela? Tell us in the comments below. For more untold stories of legendary leaders and iconic entrepreneurs, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends.